Spirituality is ultimately about connection. It's about connecting with all aspects of who you are, as well as connecting who you are with all aspects of the universe, including other individuals. I would say, especially other individuals. Now, what is the best way for you to connect with yourself and also connect with other people? The bridge to connection is ultimately empathy. To be somebody who is wanting to connect with somebody on a very deep level means that you are interested, you are honing, you are creating the skill set of being an empath. Now, we often think that to be an empath means that you just naturally gifted with this skill, with this talent. But it is most certainly something that you can cultivate, especially when you understand the significance of it, because many times we have talents that are basic to us all. But because we don't understand the value of it, we don't get to practice. We don't get to hone that skill. Now, when you begin to understand along the spiritual journey that when you are able to see and acknowledge different attributes, talents, gifts, skills, right? Tools to help you along your journey of self-realization and personal fulfillment and joy, then you understand that, oh, you need to put this skill into practice. You need to recognize how important it is to have and cultivate this skill. Now, when you are practicing empathy, you are really essentially practicing understanding. Many times in life, we go through with interacting with ourselves, but especially with other people from a standpoint of wanting to be right and prove them wrong, right? Or in some few situations, they prove themselves right and you accept and receive whatever it is that they have said. But it's not about right or wrong. It's really about simply just understanding, because ultimately people want to just be heard. They want to be understood. You want to be understood. Is that right? Now, it's important to seek out and take responsibility for this desire that you have from others and lead in a way that allows you to be that example. You see, spiritual leadership is about taking full responsibility over your life, full responsibility over who you are, and full responsibility over the things that you desire, even the things that you desire from other people. A lot of times we have a lot of different phrases and mindsets that are backwards. We think that we need to be treated a certain way in order to treat somebody that way, right? The ideal way. We say things like, in order to have my respect, you must earn my respect, which means that essentially we are led by them, the other individual. We basically wait for them to show themselves, be whoever they are, right? And then we determine how we're going to reply or respond to that. It's just like when you hear people who've been in an altercation or fight. They say, well, that person made me mad. Same thing. That is a situation where you have been influenced, impacted in a way where you were reactive. You allowed somebody to push certain triggers, and then you simply decided or reacted from that person's reality, perspective, what have you. It is not an empowering place. What we want to do as spiritual leaders is lead in every situation that we step into, lead in every interaction that you engage in. So that means that you have to be the one to initiate the state, to initiate the way of being that you wish to experience from other people. You must start first, because it all starts from you. It all starts from you and ends with you. You have to take responsibility for that. And depending on the situation, it will definitely matter your skill level, and as far as how much you've practiced this skill, which will help you to maneuver certain situations with grace, whereas most people simply wouldn't be able to do that. Have you ever seen a situation where there was a intense altercation and there was somebody who was able to gracefully come into the situation, right? Take control, basically lead, right? Come into a situation where they begin to lead the situation from a situation where it is out of control and chaotic to something that is more civil and even peaceful. Even a space where now everybody is laughing and getting along. See, that is the kind of individual that we all should seek to be, because that is within us. We don't want altercations. We don't want violence. We don't want anger, conflict in that way. We want peace. We all want peace. And so in order to achieve this peace, we have to understand that we must take leadership in that desire. We must take ownership of that desire to establish peace, and we must facilitate its happening. You cannot desire peace, expect peace when you have somebody else taking the lead over what is happening in that given situation. So you must be the one to take ownership of that. You must be the one to be able to recognize and understand, listen to the other individual while understanding what is most important to you, which is peace, right? Which is communication, which is getting along with one another. So in order for you to be an empath, to bridge this connection, you must recognize that the ability to connect with all aspects of who you are is reflective of your ability to connect with all aspects of other people around you that you engage with. And you only do that by listening. You must listen to who you are. You must listen to other people and gain from that listening the ability to truly connect with what's going on for that person. Now, this is hard for a lot of people because many times when we engage with people, especially when there are emotions that are elevated, there are buttons that have been pressed, triggers that have been pulled, we often find it difficult to truly connect and relate and care about that other person. We are simply really caught up in our own objective to say what we want to say. So even when you are communicating with your family, with your partner, your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, especially them, it can be where you are letting them speak, but you are not actively listening. And that is the problem. Because when you are able to detach from whatever experiences, whatever emotions, whatever thoughts you are having, and you are just being present, it gives you the power to actually actively listen to what that person is saying. And even though that person, yes, they could be saying things mean, they could be saying things that are just false, it still allows you to gain a leadership position because you are still calm and collective and keeping your cool. When you are attached to the intense emotions, the triggers, the buttons being pressed, then you are completely out of control. And essentially, they are in control because you are following their lead. So this is about really owning your peace. When you own your peace, you can be at a space where you are relatively neutral to your emotions, to your thoughts, and you can simply listen to their perspective and what it is they have to say. Recognizing that it is them speaking that is allowing you to have the position, to have the power to actually lead where this conversation, exchange, interaction goes. But you have to listen in order to create a deep connection in your relationships. You have to consider where they're coming from, even if you disagree. You see, it's one thing to say that you don't agree with what they're saying, but is another thing to actually understand what they're saying, right? So make sure that you don't merge the two together. Simply because you can understand their point of view, right? It doesn't mean that you agree with them. And even if you agree with them, it doesn't mean you understand. You see, or if you disagree, it doesn't mean that you don't lack understanding. You just realize that there can be a different way, right? Where maybe both people can win, both parties can win. But the main objective is winning is only a byproduct of listening. So you must be an active listener and you must pay attention to who they are, who they're being, their past experiences, which is usually showing up in the moment, especially if it is a high emotional exchange. But ultimately, leadership is simply about the act of putting yourself in their shoes to the best of your ability. That is essentially what being an empath means. It means that you can receive the energy, you feel it, you can even conceptualize where they are, what they're going through, and you can put yourself in that position to the best of your ability. Now, it doesn't mean that you can speak for them. It doesn't mean that you can tell them what to do. It simply means that you understand what they are doing. It simply means you acknowledge whatever it is that they're going through. And when you listen, that allows for you to have that sense of power. And when somebody understands or feels that you understand them, there is nothing more beautiful, connected, and powerful than that. So your job is to not simply want to say whatever it is that you're feeling and speak over them or disregard what they're saying, feeling, or experiencing. You want to listen. Remember, you are not necessarily two separate people. You are separate in the sense that you have your consciousness, they have their consciousness. But remember, you're like siblings. We are all children of the infinite source. You are an individualized expression of that which we call God, just like I am. So we are related. But you must also understand that your exchange with another is not so much indicative of the other, but it's something that you must acknowledge as a projection from your own consciousness. Everything that you're experiencing is a byproduct of your own consciousness, even if it is the experience of another person. That other person, yes, has their own consciousness, but your perspective of them is different from what they see of themselves. You see, your consciousness creates and adds meaning to every single thing that you experience. So when you are exchanging with another and you are wanting to connect with another, there are so many different levels that you can approach it. You can approach it from the grand scheme of seeing and witnessing and communicating with the divine within them, seeing them as a sibling of yourself, of the divine, but also recognizing that they are a reflection of you. And so when you communicate with them, do so from a place of compassion that they are essentially you. Because whom you are communicating with, exchanging with, is essentially your own consciousness projecting itself into the imagery of this individual. So there are many layers to approach this. But ultimately, it doesn't matter which layer you approach it. If you approach it from the standpoint of being an empath and practicing empathy, practicing compassion, it allows you to listen. It allows you to observe and learn and gather insight and information. It allows you to deepen connection. Not only connection with them, but connection with yourself, connection with the universe by means of understanding that it is all one. You see? So you have to recognize that you must respond to the exchange from a place of conscious awareness, not reaction. We often get into exchanges and we simply are reactive or we are responsive, when in fact it is more value to you to just simply be aware, to simply observe, listen. Don't think in terms of being proven wrong, right? Or trying to win an argument. Anytime you try to win an argument, you automatically have lost. You must approach it as connection, understanding, because that is the only way you're going to evolve. That is the only way you're going to ascend to another vibration and frequency. But it takes conscious awareness through communication by way of empathy and active listening. So you must lend yourself to compassion, right? Without compromising boundaries. Boundaries are very important. Is something that you must establish for yourself, and you will figure that out in time. You see, you cannot just simply allow and let anything and everyone just do anything, say anything, and treat you any kind of way. There is a sense of honoring yourself that is very important, respecting yourself that is very important. But you must recognize that it is also how you carry yourself. You see, you must carry yourself with a sense of reverence, with a sense of recognizing the divinity within you. You know, if God was standing before you, how would you treat that being? That is the same way you should be treating yourself. That is the same way, the same air, the same essence that you should be presenting when you step out into the world and exchange with others, when you exchange with yourself. So all of this is to say that using empathy will empower you to a point of connecting with the divine, not just on a esoteric level, but on a level of seeing it all in everything, in everyone. Okay. And recognizing that it is all one. And that allows you to uplift and empower yourself, but also uplift and empower others. So practice empathy. Practice empathy for yourself. Practice empathy for others. Practice empathy with your connection and your evolution and your unfoldment, your self-realization. Listen, deeply listen. It is something that will take time to get comfortable with, because our natural programming is to argue, is to speak, is to say, is to have any kind of take, an opinion to throw out in the world. But that means nothing for you, because you are not receiving knowledge. You're not receiving wisdom. When you are an active listener, when you are an observer, when you are paying attention to what's going on around you, recognizing that it is all you, then you see the opportunity of actually receiving wisdom. You see, we think that everything else is separate from us, right? Because we're coming from the ego mindset. You think that that person is separate from you. You think that the universe, the world is separate from you. So you think that all those things are against you, because that's how the ego was set up. But from consciousness, it is all one. You recognize oneness. And so that person is not separate from you. That person is a reflection of you. The universe is not separate from you. The universe is one with you. And so having connection is something that is not only required, but it is a factual truth. And so then that allows you to actually relax and pay attention. So continue to pay attention. Thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, and get access to this free ebook, The Power Within. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.